Hi, I'm Laura Hinson. I'm with the International Center for Research on Women, but I'm here today representing the YouthPower Learning team that has been working on developing a positive youth development measurement toolkit, as well as some indicators. So, do you ever wish that you had a list of PYD indicators that you could draw upon when developing your monitoring and evaluation plans? Have you been searching for measurement tools, but only finding ones that are proprietary or costly? Do you ever wonder what are the most important considerations for measuring PYD concepts in new contexts? Then I invite you to our roundtable where we will talk a little bit about the PYD measurement toolkit that we've been developing, which will be coming out in November, and which also houses these indicators, which you may have picked up front, or if you haven't, take the opportunity to do so later. The toolkit is intended for a wide variety of audiences. It's primarily intended for implementers of USAID youth programs, but anyone who implements youth programs will hopefully find this useful, as well as people who have been thinking about measuring positive youth development in low and middle income countries. So the toolkit walks readers through a step-by-step explanation of how to conceptualize positive youth development for programs and select appropriate indicators. We give some guidance to USAID missions on designing PYD programs and connecting to the features of programs that luckily I don't have to get into because they've already been presented. The toolkit also has a dedicated chapter which goes into considerations for measurement, such as validation of the tools with new populations or how to incorporate gender into PYD measurement. So this toolkit was developed by a big team of us from Making Sense International, International Center for Research on Women, University of Washington, University of Melbourne, Kalisa Management Services. We've also had a lot of input already from various USAID staff, from mission staff, from implementers, from research, from evaluators. We've had a lot of input, and I just want to personally thank everyone here who's played a role in that so far. We are very, very grateful for your feedback. All right, so the primary piece of the toolkit is these illustrative indicators, and our team identified these indicators as user-friendly, relevant to low and middle income countries, and based on the evidence. The indicators are not specific to sectors, but rather linked to the key elements in the positive youth development field. The table of indicators, also in the toolkit, that we will provide reference sheets for each of the indicator sources. In other words, it'll tell you about the different items that comprise that indicator and whether and where the tool has been previously validated. So I'm just going to give a sneak peek of some of the things in the toolkit and what we will talk about in the roundtable. First is the PYD measurement framework, which comprises of 4 domains. So since you've already heard about these twice in previous lightning rounds, who can tell me what those 4 domains are? And don't answer if you've been involved in developing this toolkit. Come on, shout them out. 4 domains. You've heard it twice. I got 5 minutes. Let's go. Assets. Great. Agency. 2 more. All right, you got there. Assets, agency, contribution, and the enabling environment. Those are the 4 domains that comprise that distill the overarching essence of positive youth development and sort of set up a much broader, higher level conceptualization of what positive youth development is. So this framework illustrates to achieve that vision of healthy, productive, and engaged youth, PYD programs and practices and approaches should work with youth to improve their assets, which are those necessary resources and skills and competencies, work with youth to improve their agency, so how youth perceive and have the ability to employ those assets and aspirations to make or influence their own goals and decisions. Contribution, youth are engaged as a source of change for their own and for their community's positive development. And lastly, the enabling environment. Youth are surrounded by an enabling environment that develops and supports their assets and agency and encourages that contribution. So then how do we get from these 4 domains all the way to indicators? Well, it's a very long process. We basically reviewed all of the key concepts or buzzwords or elements, whatever term you want to use, that's out there, and we kind of whittled it down to the key elements. And I'm just going to give you a few examples of some of those. So for example, we have interpersonal skills, those verbal and nonverbal communication skills that youth have, and that's associated with the assets domain. We also have positive self-concept, the attitudes, beliefs, and values that young people hold about themselves, which is part of agency and which Laura Littman mentioned was one of those critical pieces related to sectoral outcomes. We also have youth engagement. Youth are inclusive, intentional, mutual, respectful partnership between youth and adults, part of the contribution domain. And finally, recognition. Youth need recognition, acknowledgement, and rewards from those in the environment, which is part of the enabling environment. Did I mention indicators? We have indicators for all of these. Indicators, illustrative indicators. So come to our roundtable and I'll tell you more about the toolkit. We'll talk more about the indicators and some of the activities we have coming up this fall. So I hope to see you there.